Okay, welcome to the Flaming Plug electric bike cover part 2 video. In this video we're going to show you how to actually airbrush the flames on coming off the actual plug. But first, I wasn't really happy in part 1 how dark the on-off switches came out. So you can see I've just put a bit of masking material, which is the transparent spray mask vinyl by Hexus. It's a light grey vinyl, low tack. I did use it in the first video, so if you need any more information, check back with that one. I'm just cutting around the on-off switches just so that I can block them back out with white and then render the plugs and just make them look a bit better than the original ones that I airbrushed. I just felt they came out a little bit too dark. So you can see now I'm masking up around the area. So just using the masking tape with some scrap bits of paper. You'll notice I lift up the masking tape on the sides. This just helps to stop overspray from traveling onto your surface, and it's a bit of a shortcut when you're masking. So just make sure that it is lifted off the surface, otherwise it will travel and it will create a line that you won't want. On something like this you can always eliminate that because it is black, but if you were doing this particular design on a candy base, you'd have all sorts of problems. And you can see I'm just going through some freehand templates that I've got. Wasn't really happy with the shape, so just grabbed a bit of 3mm green vinyl masking tape, so the fine line tape. I find this one works a bit better than the blue. It just tends to stick a lot better, doesn't lift up on the edges. So what I'm doing is curving that, using masking tape to secure it in the area, and just basically using my thinned out black and reshading those buttons. Just play around with it. If it's not the right piece of masking, then grab something that's the right shape. If not, you can always make some freehand templates and then you just render freehand. So all I'm doing is rendering the rest of the shading, just slowly mixing between white and black, just to really bring out that depth of the button, just to make it look a bit more realistic. So now I'm removing the mask, and you can see they're quite bright, so I'm just going to come in with black again, my thinned out black, freehand them, and just being careful not to go too dark, because otherwise we have to repeat this step again. So okay, now you can see I'm starting to lay out the flames using the flame templates by Mike LaValle. So these are available from Art Tool. Basically I'm using a white mixed with yellow, and I'm running off the actual plug. So I'm trying to bring the artwork in amongst the flames, so it actually looks like the flames are coming off. So I'll sort of target the bottom areas of the plug, around where the electrical port is, maybe even some little flame licks coming out of the actual plug hole. And this is just, as I said, a white mixed with yellow. So probably, add your white first, then just a few drops of yellow. All it needs is a bit of body to sit on top of the black. So once you've done all that, freehanded it, you can see now I'm doing the first lot of candy, which is a candy red. I believe this is a PPG candy red. So just lay that over. It's also a good idea to tack rag the first layer of flame. So in between each one, tack rag it, get rid of any of the dry dust. And then before I hit this step, I actually apply a binder before doing the next step of flame. Otherwise that candy will bleed through. So that's an important step. So you will see that later on. But now I'm just laying out another layer on top. This just creates the depth. So again, flames are really freehand technique. Everyone's going to be different. That's what makes them so attractive. So just use your template. There's no real rule to it. Play around with it, blend out, do some freehand techniques as well. Don't just rely on your template. You really need to mix it up. Otherwise it will look a bit too, too stark and too sharp. So you notice then I used the Gerson tack rag. So it's a blue tack rag. These are generally used for clear coat. So I ran that over that next layer before applying the next step of candy, which is I'm using a yellow. You can also use an orange. I've just mixed it up with this stage, so I wanted it a bit brighter. so feel free to jump around whichever way you want to do it. So again, I've done the clear binder now, so I'm doing that right now, spraying it all over nice and easy, nice and even, just to seal off that candy, and then I'll start another layer of flame. So just basically fixing up these highlights while I go, just to pull out some of the 3D off the plug, re-highlight the plug points, the on and off switches. So again, now I get my template and begin to render another layer of flame. So look, you can do as many as you want. I wouldn't go too many. Generally I have about 3 to 4 layers, depending on what I'm doing. If they're colored flames, I'll definitely back off on the layers. It's just really just experiment, play around with it. If you're unsure, like I always recommend, do a sample panel. Like, don't just jump on someone's prized possession. Just work on a sample first and make sure you're happy with it, and then go for it. You're generally pretty safe with flames. I mean, on a black base, you can eliminate it back with the black. So if you're not happy with certain areas, just come back in. You can notice now I'm actually using an orange candy just to knock a bit of that white back. So I'm just blending that over, but I'm still leaving some of that highlighted area just so you've got that flame lick, that brightness. And now back in with the freehand, using a thinned out black. I'm putting some burn marks on the plug. So this is just for this particular design. You don't need to do this obviously if you don't have an artwork where the flames are coming off, but while I've got that black, I'm cleaning up around those flames as well, creating a little bit more depth. So don't rely on the stencil. Again, you need to have sort of some freehand techniques as well to do this, and it's a good idea to just put your own sort of style into it. So now I'm coming back in with the red candy. So doing this lightly, if you control it, will actually create the orange, because the red will sit on top of the yellow, turning that orange. So it's always a good way to do that, just to bring a bit in, and a lot quicker than putting orange candy in just for that. Now I'm sealing it all off, and I'm doing my final hot spots, so my final highlights. So these are the brightest and the hottest parts of the flame. So I generally hold the stencil, do a sharp edge, and then do some subtle ones just so that you've got a bit more depth. And then again, switch back to freehand and clean everything up. Add your own little bits. So now I'm grabbing the candy again, and I've just done a bit of freehand stuff after taking photos. So there you go, you can see now I'm working in the yellow candy this time. Again, knocking out a lot of that white overspray, because you don't want that. Just leaving the actual hottest part of that flame fairly bright. So I don't like to leave it stark white, but just play around with it, experiment. So again, I'm sealing it off with the 577 binder, which is a De Beer binder. You can also use Intercoat Clear, and PPG have one as well, which I think's an 895, but you need to check that. So now I'm just cutting in around the flames with black, just to finish it off. So just getting rid of all my overspray.